Another tip to gun safety is always keep your gun on safety when you're not ready to shoot. Son of a bitch, Pleb.
I'm sorry.
I told you what.
I have treated myself too well, covering a game I thoroughly enjoyed and all that. I knew I was going to have to cover something Pleb Tier soon, so I set up a couple conditions. I wanted it to be a shooter, I wanted it to have less than a 5 in score, and I wanted it to involve a lot of deaths. What popped out of that mathematical formula was Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. Some people like this game, and that's okay. I've made some questionable decisions in my life too. What is important is that you learn from your mistakes.
Hey, disgrace! Laid out suppressing fire! Enemy infantry! Bottom 4! Grenade! Get out of there!
Yeah, people like this. Rather, I think people say they like this game, but they haven't played it recently enough to realize what a mess it is. We'll start with the positive. For one, as a game from 2007, it ran without a hitch on PC, and I mean modern resolution and frame rate support. It didn't require an external launcher or any kind of config editing, I just installed it and played. I didn't play the remaster because I frankly forgot it even existed. I don't keep up with modern Call of Duty. I guess I never really kept up with Call of Duty outside of my temporary stay on the 360 when I didn't have a working PC. Which immediately brings us to the bad. This game was made for consoles. That's where I first played it, and boy was veteran difficulty tedious. It's still pretty hard, but much more manageable due to mouse aim.
We'll cover this entrance. Go!
Effectively, the game manages difficulty by having every enemy lob grenades at you like it's dodgeball, and put you down with only 3 shots. Nice. Hey, know that game that has instant kill snipers in alleyways? Halo 2, right? Bungie's only mistake in that game was having a sniper trail with the rifle, because of that, people can call them out on that.
I'm upset! Say it louder! I'm upset!
If you give the player no fucking clue what killed them, then they can't complain. A 10 out of 10. Some of you might be wondering what that number is counting in the top right. It's a kill counter. I counted how many people you killed over the course of Call of Duty 4. I want to do this for all the games I play for this channel, but fuck me if that wasn't a hassle to do. Especially considering there were 1,181 kills before the end. I mean, I knew there was gonna be a lot, but that's a lot. Here's the problem. Infinity Ward was used to making battlefield shooter games set in World War II. Just set a couple spawn points and let the player grind through it until they get to the other side. Now this is kinda alright when you have allies backing you up, which is technically most of the game. The problem arises when there's a huge difference in the number of allies you have to the number of enemies the game spawns for you. While you are always the most competent person in the room, no matter who you play as, the enemy just straight up goes into death charges on your positions. I guess the idea is that if you send dozens of people in on a position, eventually the wall of bodies will get so large enough that it will be able to cover your force's advance. I wasn't aware this was a 40k game. And when they grow half a brain cell and take cover, they always do it in the most exposed way possible. The player's superpower is that they can take cover and not leave their head sticking out by a foot. And if that wasn't OP enough, the player can also shoot through walls. Now, I think the AI can too, but only against other AI. So if you hide behind a piece of, say, sheet metal or cardboard or paper, hey, you can't get shot.
So, get a C4 charge on that BMP!
Granted, if it could shoot through the wall, it would fucking demolish me. The time to kill for both the player and the AI is way too damn quick. Body shots, leg shots, fucking foot shots drop everybody. Here's how the wiki explains Modern Warfare's health system. Quote,
if the player is above 55 of the total 100, all health is instantly regenerated after 5 seconds since the player was last damaged. If the player is at or below 55 health, and after 5 seconds since the player was last damaged, health will regenerate in chunks of 10 every 0.05 seconds until he gains maximum health, or the process is interrupted by damage.
Basically, health loss is a snowball effect requiring exponential waiting times behind cover to recover. This would be fine if there was any kind of indicator as to how much health the player actually has. But yes, it's technically an indicator, but I have no idea what it's trying to indicate beyond. Go hide behind cover, dumbass. The wiki alleges for the game in general that the player is below 33% of their max health in the case 33. They get the tunnel vision effect. But outside of that, there is no indicator how much health the player has. You decide to load the player's user interface with all this shit and not put in a health indicator anywhere? I guess it's supposed to be immersive since real health isn't measured in hit points, but fuck off. If you wanted it to be quote-unquote realistic, then the player should be a casualty the second they get shot. Basically, the protracted firefights become an increasing slog as they drag on because the player's pool of regenerating health starts regenerating slower once they hit a certain threshold. There's a certain sequence early on in the Marine campaign where you have to endure a firefight in a TV station for over 10 minutes. If there's a way of speeding this up, I don't know what it is. Enemies will just endlessly charge out of closets and hallways and suicide rush your position, usually chucking grenades as they go. And if these segments aren't bad enough, how about a segment where the only failure state is friendly fire? The AC-130 mission is boring and further highlights the idiocy of this game. You slaughter over 100 of these Russian guys, and if you stop and think about it for even a second, it doesn't make the slightest degree of sense why a bunch of disenfranchised rebels would be wasting their lives to catch these 5 guys. Or 8 guys now? But I thought those 3 guys died in the helicopter crash. What the fuck is going on? Alright, fine, let's crack open this story. There are 5 protagonists in this game. The main protagonist is Soap, an SAS operator attached to the main plot. The other main protagonist is Jackson, a 1st Recon Marine deployed to the Middle East. After a pretty fun training run, the SAS are deployed halfway across the world to the Bering Strait. Not in a helicopter, you guys didn't. I'm going to try to avoid nitpicking anything in these pre-baked SIGINT cutscenes because there's a lot to call out there. The SAS drop in and start murking everybody on the ship, even the drunk guy, and the guys who are asleep.
Last call. Sweet dreams.
Remember kids, don't try to rebel against your government because they'll kill you in your sleep. This game's sponsored by the US government. After slaughtering the entire crew, we find a cargo container with either a nuclear weapon or spent fuel rods. They don't specify. Then the ship gets strafed by a pair of MiGs. Whose MiGs are those? Okay, some context. This is set in the near future of 2011. Russia is experiencing a civil war between the communist loyalists, no seriously, and an ultranationalist party. Again, no, seriously. Russia, a current republic, apparently reverted to a second communistic regime at some point, and also somehow there are now nationalists in Russia. Who wrote this? This is like the fallout of a Hearts of Iron. So either the MiGs belong to the communists in power, or they belong to the rebel ultra-nationalists. You can tell they're evil since they're ultra. Since this is an ultra-nationalist ship carrying ultra-nationalist cargo to an ultra-nationalist ally in the ultra-nationalist Middle East, I'm going to assume they aren't the ones fielding MiGs to sink the ship. Or if they were, they'd have had the power to not lose the fucking ship in the first place. Well, whatever. After one very boring sequence, we haul ass off the ship with the manifest that implicates Khaled al-Assad in purchasing nuclear weapons, which becomes immediately useless as evidence as within the next few hours, al-Assad overthrows his local government.
Is this a raisin for fucking extractor spraying, huh?
That's a Desert Eagle, a famous Israeli handgun being used in the hands of an anti-Western coalition. Okay. What's really important is that our informant, Nikolai, has been captured, and we have to go save him. After sneaking into Russia and assisting the local communists and killing the local ultranationalists, we bust out Nikolai, who has a great line.
Yes, I can still fight. Thank you for getting me out of here.
I'm pretty sure I'm doing better right now, and these videos don't get critical acclaim. Unfortunately, we got into the helicopter, which means we are going down. But not before Operation Desert... I'll come back to that with an actual joke. We're now playing as a 1st Recon Marine. Get used to switching protagonists and get used to them not saying anything while we possess their bodies. We are invading the country of... well, I don't know. The game seems to intentionally imply this is occurring in every Middle Eastern country. No, seriously, the execution is implied to be in Saudi Arabia, the invasion force flies into Qatar, later we're shown to be in Iraq, then Saudi Arabia again, then at one point in fucking Afghanistan, and the final time in the unnamed capital city, which is on the border of Iran, Iraq, and Kuwait. And the main guy's name is al-Assad, which is an obvious reference to President Bashir al-Assad of Syria the West has been desperately trying to kill off for the last decade. Try doing both the bravest and least brave thing you can do as a writer, and you'll get this story. I almost get what they're trying to do, depicting the conflicts as largely superfluous in location and participant. It doesn't matter what Middle Eastern country it takes place in, no matter what, the US will invade them. It doesn't matter what sides are fighting in Eastern Europe, they will be fighting. But it's done so poorly, as though an obvious attempt to depict what it isn't to try and avoid making parallels to real-life events. It's like it wants to be a story of the Iraq invasion where Hussein actually had the nukes. But that was a very recent history when this game was being made. Then some exec at Activision took one look at it and told them to play it safe, and made sure they never make any tangible reference to locations. The wiki says it's Saudi Arabia, but it has no source, so I'm going to assume they're solely basing that off the location in the cutscenes, which would be fine if they didn't vary so much in showing where that was supposed to be. Okay, I'm way off track, let's focus. The events of the Middle East campaign are largely irrelevant to the story. Jackson's team tries and fails to capture al-Assad at the armory and a TV station, then they fight their way through a city to assist a stuck tank. Then they deploy to the capital city and, for their most relevant part, die en masse in a nuclear explosion. Meanwhile, in Russia, the squad of 4, plus 1 helicopter pilot, get shot down. They then multiply into a squad of 6 with a second pilot, but both pilots and 1 soldier are dead. The 5 men embark in a cross-country journey to do what any sensible English-speaking man would and get the fuck out of Russia. An AC-130 shows up to help them out, and they escape Russia. The general details Nikolai has to offer is that al-Assad has a nuke. I already spoiled that though, but it really doesn't matter. After the nuke goes off, Price's team invade Azerbaijan. Now, who is approving these fucking operations? Whatever. We capture al-Assad at his safe house, and after a bit of manual interrogation, his phone rings, revealing that this ugly fucker from the beginning is Imran Zakhaev. Flashback time. 1996, Chernobyl. Price was in a 2-man sniper team sent back to assassinate Imran Zakhaev, who was using the recent political turmoil in Russia to sell weapons of both a ballistic and nuclear variety. He's our 4th protagonist. Price, that is. And so I played him like the modern Captain Price fights. I let someone else do all the work while I hit at the back of the map.
Got another.
Now I don't know what's better, that I got Zakhaev in the right spot the first time, or that I blew this guy's head off first.
Wait for my mark. Target's acquired. Damn, it went wide. Probably should target down. I think you blew off his arm.
Back in 2011, Price says,
Every ultra-nationalist psycho in Zakhaev's pocket is about to show up on our doorstep, coming to claim al-Assad.
that is, after Price shot him and the game used the Desert Eagle sound effect for the 1911. Wait, why aren't the SAS using the USP? What the fuck is going on?
Zakhaev. Imran Zakhaev.
What, did you intuit the name of the man you shot 15 years ago from a mile away with a fucking sniper rifle just by the voice through a cell phone?
Sir, it's his cell phone. Who was that, sir?
Zakhaev.
I can believe al-Assad could be hiding in Azerbaijan. What I'm having trouble with is A, why the ultranationalists were just slaughtering the villagers, B, why Azerbaijan, a sovereign country, is allowing rebel forces from Russia to invade them with infantry, tanks, and helicopters, C, why the map makers decided to make Azerbaijan just look like another generic part of Western Russia, and D, why the Russian loyalists give a shit that the ultranationalists are slaughtering the Azerbaijani villagers.
The ultra-nationalists, they're killing the villagers.
It will not for long enough.
Whatever. These ultranationalists are willing to send hundreds of men to their deaths, and damn if I'm not able to stop them. We fight our way up the hill, slowing their advance as long as possible. Then we get told to come back down it to the waterfront. Miraculously, everyone survives. We even manifested a javelin out of nowhere. Griggs shows up to help us.
Back again? Jesus.
I didn't mention him in the Marine campaign because his contribution was basically him saying that he refuses to wear sleeves and blasting his mixtape on Saudi national television.
Roger that, command. Out.
So Jackson, an OG who practically carried the invasion by himself, was left crawling to his death in radioactive hell. But Griggs? No. Griggs gets to survive. So now this is a joint op. Well, I'm not sure one Marine constitutes a joint op, but hey, the plan is to target Zakhaev's son for information on the Grey Goblin himself. All goes well up until...
Drop it! You got nowhere to run!
Shit, kid's got some issues.
Yeah, you don't say. Why kill yourself when your enemy is right in front of you and your gun is loaded? Also, was that a 1911? Editor me, was that a 1911? It was a fucking 1911. Why do people keep using this gun? And I know why, because it's recognizable. I guess it makes sense. Zakhaev was an international gun runner, and this SAS team seems to have full autonomous reign of the entire world.
Remember, switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading. Using your knife is even faster than switching to your pistol.
Right, not much more to go. Okay. Price says Zakhaev won't let this go unanswered, and in response to his son's death, Zakhaev just meekly issues an ultimatum. He says that the US and UK forces need to GTFO out of Russia and also takes over a Soviet missile base. So we Halo jump in, but something goes awry. It's my experience with Halo jumps that something always... Griggs got captured. Oh, for fuck's sake, here's a list of bad luck signs. A black cat crossing one's path, walking under a ladder, tipping a salt shaker over, and bringing Griggs with you on your missions. He helped mess up the ambush op, and was the one that motivated Zakhaev's son to kill himself by suggesting that he shoot him in the leg. I mean, Griggs already killed one protagonist. No doubt he'll get Price and Soap killed. I guess that AC-130 operator should be glad he got to go, oh fuck.
We got a problem here. Delta 1 X-ray. We have a missile. I repeat, we have a missile. There's another one. Delta 1 X-ray. We have 2 missiles in the air.
You know, if Griggs hadn't fucked up his jump, landing, and gotten subsequently captured and had to be rescued, we probably could have secured the facility before the missiles even launched. So why does the SAS care that the eastern seaboard of the US is about to get annihilated? I mean, beyond common decency, wouldn't it be better if they showed the UK about to get nuked? Guess it might mess up the timing of the level. Still, it was the SAS that blew Zakhaev's arm off, and it was the SAS that got that boat sunk, and Al-Assad was killed by the SAS, and his son killed himself avoiding capture by the SAS. But hey, let's nuke America, because that is the most obvious thing a villain can do. Please don't ask me to do Modern Warfare 2, I'd probably fucking end myself. Right, we raid the obviously Soviet missile base, enter the abort codes, and now the missiles are no longer a threat. All that remains is to chase down Zakhaev. But, master move here, Zakhaev decides to send his army of lemmings to charge us single file. This intimidation tactic works on Price, who panics and orders everybody to leave the base. Man, if I was an evil Russian, I would just go back into the now empty base and fire off the other missiles that are still there. That's the only fitting fate for a world this stupid. Right. Okay, so the Allies desperately try to escape their Nazi pursuers, but uh-oh, the Nazi helicopter blows up the bridge and it's down to a desperate last stand against the endless waves of ultra-nationalist Russians. This goes poorly. Griggs, what are you doing? You are literally dragging me out of No, now we're in the open, you dumbass. Keep For fuck's sake, Griggs. Thanks for your contribution. You won't be missed.
Get fucked.
Oh no, not Gaz. Not Mac and... Walcroft? Why the fuck did I remember your guys' names? Oh, yes, Price. Give me something to shoot myself with. I'll say, this is what your son looked like before he did it, and then do it. And this is even the same gun he used. wait a second, suicide isn't an option. And so ends the tale of John Soap McTavish. He had a higher kill count than even Simo Hea. And through it all, he never said a word. He died. Well, not really a hero, since he was interfering in other countries' revolution on behalf of the status quo. He died a victim of bad writing. No, I feel like Lieutenant Dan. Just let me die. Don't drag Soap off into a sequel. Did Modern Warfare kill shooters? No. Fun shooters were basically dead by the time Modern Warfare had hit the scene. Did it cause shooters to get stuck in a rut of modern military settings? Yes. Modern settings were relegated to more realistic style shooters in the early to mid-aughts, so in the beginning of the 7th console generation when Modern Warfare came along and casualized everything, that's how we ended up with that era of shooters. But always remember that the quote-unquote death of shooters wasn't traditional shooter markets being replaced with subpar products. It was a new generation of gamers entering the market, and being catered to by a new generation of developers. At least half of this game's problem is boiled down to the loose pretenses of the plot and bad writing. But if bad writing exists just to bridge the gaps between good gameplay sections, then it's fine. But Modern Warfare doesn't even have that. The game constantly jerks the player between perspectives, then asks the player to be mournful when Jackson dies, and when Bravo Team is wiped out. Frankly, I don't care, because the missions you undergo are simply not fun. No, not even All Gillied Up, one of the game's more iconic levels, which is the one where you play as Price and sneak into Chernobyl. The AI is still just as idiotic, and even the pre-scripted set pieces have the AI using some questionable tactics, and that is nothing to say of the game's artistic aesthetics. The game is almost constantly painted in some shade of dark green, brown, or gray. Chernobyl is washed out like someone is fucking with the saturation settings of my monitor. Now, I get it. The intention was to depict this eerie and creepy place with the true magnitude of the disaster that occurred there, and that's fine. But to that I would say you have much to learn about contrast. Because the rest of the game is just as washed out and lacking in color, everything feels bleak already. So it lacks any kind of impact to see this devastated city when it's just more of the same shit, just a little grayer. I'll put it like this. If they had set this during the summertime, when the vegetation is a lush green, and actually saturated the colors of the level, then it would not only have contrasted with the rest of the game well, it would have felt even more eerie. Sure, it's weird to see this place that is nothing but gray and brown, but it's even weirder to see a place where people have lived that is just as bright and vibrant as any place you'd see in your life. Juxtaposing the ruins and commonplace items of life with the slow pacing and atmospheric music would have done wonders for this level, and never mind the rest of the game. I suppose I should talk about the music. It's not very good. It's my intention to use the game's original soundtrack in the background of my narrations, and I feel this worked out pretty well for Fury. But since every track of Modern Warfare is meant to accent a dramatic scene, everything is either deep basses for shooty sections, or bombastically crashing together various instruments. I feel it would give a sense of fatigue to have to listen to that for 25 minutes.
One down.
Sadly, it feels more and more likely as I approach the end of this video that I will have to play Modern Warfare 2 at some point. It won't be the next video, that spot is already reserved. Oh yeah, there's a multiplayer mode. I forgot about that. Fucking martyrdom is bull.